Even though God's people had ignored him, he still loved them. Even though they gave their hearts to other gods, and even though this broke his heart, God still loved them with all his heart. He would never stop loving them, because that is what God is like. He is perfect love, unfailing love. His love never gives up, or slows down, or dries up. His love is wonderful, and it goes on forever and ever. But there has to be more than one person for love to work. God's love was there, but his people's love was missing. They had given it away to other things. So God waited. He waited for his people to remember his love and his goodness. He waited for them to remember the promises he had made them. He waited and waited. He would wait for them to bring their love back to him. He would wait as long as it would take. After 400 years of waiting, God decided that it was time. The people were ready. They were tired of living with poison in their hearts. They didn't want to die. Now they did want to love God's heart, and they really did want to give him their hearts. God was ready. He had always been ready, but now his family was ready too. The world was ready. He was going to show the world once and for all how much he loved his children. God started by sending an angel to a young girl called Mary. He had chosen her to be the mother of the Saviour that he was giving to the world. Mary loved God's heart, and even though she didn't understand how God would do it, she wanted to be part of God's plan. Next, God sent an angel to Joseph. Joseph was going to be Mary's husband. The angel told him Mary was going to have a baby, and that baby was to be called Jesus, which means Saviour. This baby would be the Saviour that everyone was waiting for. Joseph loved God's heart, and even though he didn't understand how God would do this, he wanted to be part of God's plan too. When the time came for Jesus to be born, Mary and Joseph were a long way away from home. They had travelled all the way to Bethlehem because this was what the Roman government had ordered. Lots of other people had travelled to Bethlehem too, so the town was full. Mary and Joseph ended up staying on the floor in a stable. This was where the Saviour of the world, King Jesus, was born. God's people had been hoping and praying that the Saviour would come, but no one expected it to be this way. This is what God's love is like. It often surprises us in wonderful ways. Although Jesus was born in a little village that most people had never heard of, God still wanted everyone to know. He sent an angel army to sing and shout the news over Bethlehem. They declared that this Saviour would be good news of great joy for everyone. Jesus had come not just to save the family that God had chosen. He had come to save everyone in the whole world from the poison of sin. God also wrote the news in the sky. He launched a new star so that people all over the world would see something great had happened. The Saviour, God's chosen King, had been born. The only people to hear the praises of the angels and to see this mighty army were some shepherds. Everyone else was asleep. And the only people to notice the star were a few magi, astrologers from distant lands. Everyone else was asleep. The shepherds were so excited to hear the news that they left their sheep to find the baby king. And the Magi were excited to meet God's king too, so they left everything and travelled hundreds of miles to find him. The shepherds found him first, and they told everyone about him. The king had been born. The Saviour was here. God had not forgotten his promises. It took the Magi a lot longer to find Jesus, but they never gave up. They did not want to miss what God had done. And when they found God's king, they worshipped him and gave him costly gifts. Although most people missed the arrival of God's king, God was excited because the rescue had begun. What he had done would change things forever. He was going to get his family back, and one day everyone would bow to King Jesus.